14 years after its original release, we finally see a PC version of this beloved Rockstar title. I'm quite happy with how it's turned out, for the most part. It's almost exactly what I wanted out of a PC port for this game. However, I feel the need to acknowledge a few pain points that have bothered me. I'd also like to address some of the criticisms that I think are a bit less fair, but let's start with the real negativity first, since that's what you sick freaks are here for anyway. Yes, the $50 price tag is a pretty major issue for a lot of people. I must confess, I do feel a bit dirty having spent that much on the game, but the only reason I felt comfortable doing so was because I put in some extra hours at work and I had the extra cash. I really can't recommend most people spend $50 on a game that's 14 years old. If I had to summarize it in one sentence, I'd probably say it's worth the money, but not that much. Keep in mind that you can still buy this game on the Xbox Store for $30, and that can be played in 4K on the Xbox Series X. The only thing you'd be missing is the high frame rate, but you have to really question if that's worth the extra $20, especially when you remember that they've actively taken content out of the game as well. Okay, I know the multiplayer mode in Red Dead is not as much of a smash hit as other multiplayer games, but people still like it, and plenty of people still play it. Rockstar seems to have completely ignored this though, and removed it from all the modern re-releases. It was missing from the PS4 and the Switch, and now it's missing from the PC. All we can hope is for someone to make an unofficial multiplayer mod, and for Rockstar to not shut that mod down. Regardless of how you feel about the online mode, you must agree that charging $20 more for a game with less content is just pathetic. It may run at a higher frame rate, and it may support higher resolutions, but it still has a big bite taken out of it. You can't just ignore that. That being said, there is a lot to love about this PC port. As I mentioned already, resolutions and frame rates are much higher than we see in the original, and for the first time, you can aim using a mouse instead of a controller. Imagine that, a mouse as a pointing device. What will they think of next? Additionally, there have been some graphical enhancements, although they are fairly minor. I tend to interpret this as making the game look like you remember rather than trying to overhaul the visual quality. There are options for better shadows, higher quality anti-aliasing, extended render distance, and even dynamic resolution scaling for lower-end computers. Both AMD FSR and NVIDIA DLSS are available, and when set to native, I find that both of these scalers do a great job of smoothing out jagged edges. Of course, I think a lot of people are going to dislike the graphics options on offer here. I assume that because of the high price tag, a lot of people were expecting this to be a much more elaborate remaster, perhaps some enhanced shaders or visual effects, or even higher resolution textures. As you can tell, that is not the product we've been given, and people have taken exception to that. I still hold the sentiment I raised at the beginning though. This PC port in its current state is almost exactly what I wanted. I don't want the game to look drastically different or to feel more like the second game. I want to play the game I remembered playing a decade ago, only this time with a mouse and a keyboard at 60 frames per second. I'm not saying that the fans are wrong for wanting a full-on remaster, but from my point of view, I'm quite happy with what I have. And as a bonus, this game also runs great on the Steam Deck. The HDR implementation is not mind-blowing by any means, but it still looks nice in my eyes. With the graphics preset set to medium and motion blur disabled, I'm able to run the game at a consistent 60 FPS, and I don't personally notice any drops. Of course, if you want to save on battery or increase the graphics quality, you could set the cap to 40 or even 30 and practically guarantee a steady frame rate. I just prefer the fluidity of a full 60. I guess at this point I should reach some sort of conclusion. I've always been okay at starting things, but never good at figuring out how to end them. If you're looking for advice on whether to buy this port, I'd honestly just say what everyone else is saying, wait for it to go on sale. $50 is a pretty steep price, and I'd feel more comfortable paying closer to $30. Again, it's worth the money, just not as much as they're asking. That being said, I think I've rambled on long enough. Thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. Good night.